Welcome to Life Hacks Beyond Convention with Dee and Sonia.
I was looking, there's a book that popped up that someone had recommended called An Anxious Generation or something like that.
Oh, yes.
And they were talking about, that generation of kids. I don't know. What is the generation called? I've so got out of it. Is it Gen Z? Pretty much the under 30s anyway, from what I could gather. And, just how they're just such an anxious generation. And you think, it's really awful, the different difficulties that they seem to be grappling with, and not necessarily very successfully.
My ex-nephew from a former marriage, he would be now in his late 30s. And I remember when he was at school, the teachers were having a lot of trouble with him. And we sat him down and just, because his mother was too, and we sat him down to try to talk to him. And he said, well, what's the point anyway? I mean, what do you mean, what's the point? You better get a job, or do other things, have a career. And he said, but the world's going to end.
Yeah.
And they'd been teaching them about Nostradamus. And so, but these days, like that's then, he's in his late 30s. The next lot have got all the political upheaval and everything else, but it's at them all the time. So when we talk about, if there's a murder somewhere and there's nothing else on the news, they'll push that, but then they'll go and find all the other ones. And so not only it gets promoted 6 times more than reality, so everyone thinks it's all awful. So it's no wonder they're anxious, and we're not giving them, we're not telling them that's not as bad as it seems. It's horrible if someone gets murdered, but there's not 6 people in each time. It's just, I don't know how we teach them to handle that stuff. And with what's going on politically now.
The access to information. And I can understand the concern that governments have with disinformation and whatnot, and its dissemination. Because that's part of the problem, isn't it? Is that not only are they coming across all of this information that's true and is being, like you say, perpetuated in such a way, it's just in their face all the time. But then there's all this information that's out there that they're accessing that's not true.
Yeah. Or it may be true if it's an isolated situation, but sometimes we have to go back and go, well, what happened before? Why, and often we're not covering the history off. So you've sort of got to take things back and back and back to understand why something was happening in the first place and why, so, and I mean, we can't get the grown-ups to, settle themselves down. So what hope have we got with some of the younger generations?
Yeah, it's more important than ever to try and help people understand how to navigate information, isn't it?
Yeah. And as a society, I don't think we're doing a very good job. So, but equally, we've never been faced with it before. So we've got to learn how to before we can help them. So,
Yeah, it's pretty tough. Pretty tough.
Yeah.
The underlying issues aren't any different, but the mechanisms.
Yes. Hit the subscribe button below if you want to follow Life Hacks Beyond Convention.